Hey everybody, Mike here at Junks Automotive. I'm just sitting here at the bar. The little one's gone and her mom, they're off doing stuff, so I figured I'd sit down and talk a little about something. The other night, getting dark out, and the youngest one, she's 7, wanted to play outside, play out back. Well, she got the bright idea she was going to catch lightning bugs, fireflies. So me and her mom had got her set up with a net, which I thought was funny because when we were kids we didn't have nets, we had our bare hands. She ran around and Mom went inside, and I'd watched Lily out there catching fireflies, just having a ball. She brought them in and had a couple, and we had a mason jar, put them in there, and told her, I said, yeah, you don't see these much anymore like I did when I was your age. We'll look at them for a while, let them go. And I know her well enough. Once she went inside, I took the lid off, that way they could work their way out and escape. But it really got me to thinking about what it's like to be a father, what it means to be a father. When I was little, we lived in this little white house right behind the state fairgrounds of Indiana. It's where I live. This is Indianapolis. And I just remember being outside, and it was dark, and just, I mean, lightning bugs everywhere. Remember we'd catch them, and Dad, I believe it was Dad, my dad, and I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And then through the years we did it some more as kids. But I always remember my dad finding a old mayonnaise jar with the lid. Mom would always clean them up and keep them for stuff. And we'd put the lightning bugs in there with some grass. And I remember my dad putting that lid on real tight, and he'd take a butter knife with his big old hands and pop holes in the top of that jar so they could breathe, you know. And us kids thought it would be funny to, once we'd go to bed, we'd let them go in our room and, you know, light up the whole room with, you know, probably 100 lightning bugs. That was good times. Then we had pet toads. We'd catch wood toads and have them in an aquarium or a terrarium thing we had, and we'd feed them to the toads so they'd turn the lights off and their bellies would go woo woo. But yeah, as far as fatherhood goes, my dad as a father I think he was a good father. I think just like the rest of us, we're products of our upbringing. My grandpa, his dad, left the house when my dad was, I believe he was 7 or 8 years old, something like that. And I remember my dad telling me about, he would always want his dad, my grandpa, to come get him for the weekend to go fishing. So my dad would dig night crawlers, dig redworms, so he'd have bait for him to go fishing with, and then he wouldn't show up. And that always kind of affected me by seeing the look in his eye when he would talk about stuff like that. My dad was, up until I was 12, 13 years old, my dad was my hero. He was the biggest, baddest person that I'd ever known. He was my superhero. He was married before he was married to my mom, and I have an older half brother, which I think highly of. He was also one of my heroes. And he would come around every couple weekends, and I remember Dad would go get him and come back, bring him, and he'd hang out for the weekend, and Dad drive him back home. And you know, we go sometimes we'd go fishing, and that's kind of where I picked up wanting to work on model cars, because you know, Dad would get him a model car, and he'd I'd watch him build those model cars, and I started wanting to build model cars. Well, now I'm working on cars. That's sort of how all that started, you know. But as time went on, my older brother wasn't coming around as often. And you get a little bit older and you start questioning or not understanding. And, you know, well, it turns out his mom and his stepdad was moving him farther and farther away. Of course, my dad, he wasn't real happy about that. But he figured out that when he did see him, my older brother would be upset that my dad was leaving. And this is important in the story when it comes to fatherhood. I didn't know for a whole lot of years why my dad was like he was until I got old enough to understand that he's a product of his upbringing. He always told me that, you know, you be a better father than your father was to you. You always give your kids more than you had. And he did that. He definitely did that. He, you know, like my grandfather, my grandfather, just as far as the stories, you know, he ran around a lot. You know, he did this sort of thing a lot. As my dad did too. But he wasn't there to be a father as much as my dad thought he needed to be. Now my dad, you know, rest his soul, he stuck with my mom and he didn't go anywhere, you know, so he did better. But he was, you know, he was gone a lot. He just was, until I got old enough to realize what was going on. You know, it's not important, but that's when we started having some trouble as far as being a father and son. You know, it didn't take long that, you know, I had my own kids, and the first real try at fatherhood didn't work out the best way it could have. Me and their mom were young, you know, and for reasons untold for now, we split up. And every 2 weeks I'd go down, pick them boys up, and I'd bring them home. We'd hang out, do stuff. Come Sunday, I'd take them back home, and I'd drive back home. And sometimes they'd cry when I left. But I think it was more important than seeing my oldest son through his little glasses at 2 years old, pulling on Dad's shirt, crying, so that me and his mom would stop fighting. I decided that I would never, ever do that to a little kid again. Because I know how that feels. So I think in the way my dad saw things with my older brother, he didn't want to have him cry. He was better off staying out of his life. And he had told me this much. He said that, you know, he said, why don't your wife's new husband adopt your kids? And you should let them. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you can't be in their lives all the time. They cry when you leave. You're causing them heartache. You need to put your feelings aside and think about them. It's kind of a different way to look at things. And I do agree with him, he's right, to an extent. Well, he was right. You know, and but I also think of somebody I'm very close to that gave away a child when he was really young, and many years later this child found him. You know, and is he a father to that child? I don't think he is. You can't make babies and call yourself a father. You can raise kids that are not yours. You raise them their whole entire life, and that makes you a father. It doesn't matter whether you made them or not. It doesn't matter. You raised a kid, you're the father. So for this person that was close to me, it's kind of tough for him to deal with where does he fit in that person's life. He did the right thing. That person turned out way better than she would have in the situation she could have been in. She had a great mom and dad that actually raised her very well. And she's a very smart, loving person. That's, you know, at the end of the day, that's all you can expect. That's what you want. So many years down the road, my two youngest ones, the two youngest ones were in the thumbnail for this video. They're now, you know, in their 20s. I'm very highly proud of the both of them. Man, I love them to death. They were strong, independent, young men, gentle souls, and they're both full of love. I don't know if they caught fireflies or not, though, because I missed a lot. I missed a lot, but I'm still their daddy because I did all I could to spend time with them and be with them. Did all the things, drove, you know, fought for the right to spend time with them. That's a father. So now, and I'm going to tell you, we have a special guest at the end of this episode. You've got to stick around. You've got to. You're watching now. You made it this far. I met a gal playing music because for a long time that's all the extra stuff I did was play music for the most part. I met a gal and I'm happily married to her now. And we have a 7-year-old. I'm 53 and I have a 7-year-old. But I feel awful, thankful, blessed, however you want to put it, to have a chance to actually always be there. Now, as a father and a guy like me that works all the time, work, want to, you know, I want to provide. I want her to have things that I didn't have. It's part of the deal. That's how I was brought up. So I make videos trying to do something for me and for us that allows me to stay home or to not go to a job that I really don't like 8, 9, 10 hours a day, every day. You know, is that it still makes me a father. To hug and kiss her and tell her I love her on a daily basis, every single day, and be in the same house. Yep. I'm awful happy about that. So stick around. I'm going to get our special guest in here. Everybody, I want to introduce you to somebody. Lily Joe. Say hi. Hi. Say hi to everybody. Hi. Wave. Oh my God. Ow. So Father's Day is coming up. Go out and catch you some lightning bugs. Or some fireflies, whatever you like to call them. All right. Now say subscribe. Subscribe. Say it louder. No. I don't want to. Thanks for hanging out. Sure appreciate all you guys. Subscribe. Junk out. You're done. Fly. Love you. Love you too. All right. Help.